So I'm here today at the new house. It is entirely too hot to be working outside right now. It is the middle of the day. I'm gonna spend the afternoon unpacking the boxes in the kitchen because that's the first place that we need functioning whenever we finally move in here. I have the majority of our items here. We're eating off of paper plates at the old house, so it's gonna be fun to set this one up. I'm gonna actually take out a lot of my antique stuff here, so it's gonna be exciting to be able to reuse that again. It's been a while. Whenever I set up a kitchen, I always know that it's gonna happen in two phases. It's gonna happen in the first phase where I'm gonna put things in the zones that I think that they belong. But about 6 months in, I'm gonna really sit down and think about how much I'm moving around in the kitchen and whether or not some of the items within my zones need to change. I don't know if you've ever thought about zones in your kitchen. You probably have instinctively done it, but if you find yourself running around your kitchen while you're cooking or while you're trying to do daily activities, you probably have the wrong zones. So what do I mean whenever I talk about zones in a kitchen? Essentially, you're gonna have 3 zones. You're gonna have your prep zone, the area where you are combining things together, mixing things together. You're gonna have your hot zone, which is gonna be where you're actually doing your cooking. And then you're going to have your cleaning or your wet zone. And that's where you're going to have activities that are centered around water and typically involves a water source or a sink. In this house, we're also going to have a drink zone. So in this house, I essentially am going to have 3 zones, but I'm actually gonna have what I think is going to be 2 prep zones, and I will show you why. This obviously is going to be our wet zone, and all the area around it, countertop space, typically about 3 foot wide from the sink or from a water source, is considered the wet zone. This right here is going to be our hot zone or our cooking zone. And so obviously that is where we're going to cook and have hot stuff. This right here is going to be our prep zone. I'm actually gonna have another table right here that is gonna be an antique island. So that's going to be another prep zone. And then I'm not 100% sure how this little corner is gonna function yet. So I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. As I unpack boxes, I'm gonna pile up all of the different items that I think belong in those zones. And then I'm gonna start deciding in which cabinetry they go in. So this is what it looks like whenever everything is out of boxes. Oh my gosh, so much stuff. So I was putting things in some of their logical places, like the cabinet drawers right here and where I know I want some of our bowls. And I also had some thoughts about what should go on here. Essentially, while I was unpacking, I was really thinking about how I anticipate using this space and what I believe is going to be best for now until about 6 months from now, whenever I think about how we actually do use the space. So how I'm going to organize this space now until it's been about 6 months and I've had a chance to actually live in it is I will pile up all of our glasses near the refrigerator And then I will put a bunch of my really small appliances and odds and ends type of glassware and plateware and bowls and such in that section, because I don't anticipate using that corner that much in terms of prep. I think that it's going to be more storage and surface area. I'm going to put all of our plates and bowls and everyday things that we eat on in this zone right here. And then that will give us the ability to clean and wash our regularly used items and put them away very easily. This area right here is going to be used for prep of meals, for cooking of meals, for assembly of different types of foods together, and then also for final serving and surface prep. So I am going to put a lot of my items that handle warm food over on this side. I'm also going to hopefully be able to have enough room in some of these upper areas to store some of my serveware, but I know that I'm probably going to have to store some in that back corner right there, as well as take a little bit of our pantry and potentially some other areas in the house in order to store all of this serveware that I have and antiques and odds and ends. So something else that I wanted to point out was whenever I was unpacking, I was just kind of putting things in places. I wasn't organizing them how I know I want them to be organized in the end, as well as I know that I'm going to have to buy organizational tools in order to make this house fit my needs. So this right here is probably not the final look, and it's pretty obvious that that is not the way I'm going to keep my drawers. But it was a good place to store these items so that I can manage them on an as-needed basis as I roll through one by one. This task and effort can get extremely overwhelming, especially to someone who is OCD. And so breaking it up into pieces and parts is really going to help you make some good decisions as you press forward. Took a few minutes for dinner. Let's get back at it. So it's the next morning, and as you can see, I spent a lot of the evening just putting everything up that was on the countertops. I'm going to show you around, show you what I did. So I used some of the storage pieces that I already had from the other house, and I'm going to do things like put liners in,
but I'm really not going to invest in any other storage materials until I've lived in this space and I know that the items where they are now is either where they're going to stay or I've come up with a better idea. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it is all done and complete. Can you believe that all that stuff went into these cabinets? It's pretty crazy. So essentially what I did was very similar to how I anticipated. I have kind of secondary use items and ancillary items up in these cabinets. So bowls that I'll use occasionally, serving pieces that I'll use occasionally, you know, odds and ends that are used in cooking, but not cooking at all times. And then a lot of my serveware is kind of up in these corners that, you know, I'm only going to pull out occasionally. All of our drinkware is located, sorry, that scared me. All of our drinkware is located right here. Eventually, whenever we have the bar area set up, some of that drinkware is going to go in that area and it will clear up some shelves here. And, you know, this needs a little bit of love and organization. All of our coffee stuff is going to be located right here because this is where our coffee machine is. And I actually use a French press, so it's going to live right here every morning. And then these shelves, you know, they scoot in, but not very efficiently where it accomplishes anything. So we'll probably take that out if we ever renovate again. So all of these items down here are going to be, again, for wet use. So like a salad spinner and some strainers, and then some additional small appliances down here, and then some additional coffee items until I can kind of figure out how this thing is used the most efficiently. And we have a lot of space back there still. So I do have things still at the old house that we're using on a more regular basis that I didn't want to bring over here yet. And so that I need to make sure that we still have space for those items. Right here, I used a pan rack. I don't know if you can see that, but I used a pan rack to hold a bunch of my cutting boards and servingware up vertically. It is a great method or way to store these large cutting boards and large trays and such, is doing them vertically. Anytime that I'll do a custom kitchen design, I use vertical solutions a lot. Right here is where we have plates, and then I'm also going to store all of our you know, Tupperware containers or leftover food containers so that it is easily accessible not only from the sink area but also from our serving area. So I'm hoping in this location in the kitchen it's going to save me a couple of steps over the years. And then up here we have serving pieces. The same thought process is going there. Our pantry is over here to the left. And so I don't want to have to walk all the way across the kitchen to get our bowls or plates whenever we're potentially going to have a nice little island right here where we can do things like make cereal or warm up food or even serve food, you know, bring plates from here over to the service area. So constantly thinking about how many steps I'm taking in the kitchen over time is what makes a kitchen very efficient. Again, this is a very awkward area to get to, so I just stuffed it with a bunch of my serving pieces that I don't use very often. Cabinet underneath here is where all of our baking trays are going.
Along this island is where my hot zone is. I want to think about these drawers in relation to that. So all the utensils need to support my hot zone working. I also want this section to support serving. So I'm going to try and put the serveware and our utensils in this area as well. So like our flatware utensils. In this first drawer, I'm going to put things like tongs and mixers. I'm also going to put
my knives in this drawer. I'm not sure if they're going to stay there, but it's going to be my first instinct. This is going to be mixing utensils. There's a few serving in here as well. Hot pads are in here, and so are spoon rest. Really easily accessible. I'm right-handed. Next drawer is going to be serving utensils. We'll organize these in a way. And then right here is going to be our cutlery. It's not quite big enough, so it's probably going to expand out to somewhere else. But the cutlery being right here, I think is going to be nice to have near our serving area. Underneath is where mixing bowls, additional serving pieces are going to be. As you can notice, I'm doing the vertical storage of my serving pieces again, and that I find is the best way to store them and to keep them from getting broken. Down below is where I have a couple of little serving pieces as well. It's going to be kind of secondary space. I'm shooting this video a couple of days later because I didn't realize that my sound was off whenever I shot the end of our kitchen process. I guess this is going to be the learning curve that we go through documenting this whole process. Hopefully that was enjoyable and helpful to some people who are potentially rethinking the organization in their kitchen and how they set it up. I've really always enjoyed the zone process and the process of looking back 6 months later against my assumption. Thanks for coming along on the journey with us. I'll see y'all next time.